Good morning and welcome to Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. It's Tuesday, the 14th day of April 2026. And thank you for joining us this morning. I am Anulu Akbo Ido.
And I am Samson Balogo. Always a pleasure to have you with us as we bring you the stories shaping conversations across Nigeria and beyond.
So we'll begin this morning with the Daybreak Gist, a story generating reactions both locally and internationally as Seyi Tinubu, son of the president Bola Ahmed Tinubu, reportedly puts billboards in Canada with the message, "Relax, Tinubu is fixing Nigeria," ahead of the 2027 elections.
Well, the development has sparked conversations around political messaging, public perception, and the global dimension of Nigeria's political discourse. Issues we'll be touching on this morning.
After this, we'll bring you the weather report to help you plan your day, followed by Daybreak News, where we'll take you through the top national and international stories.
All right, then it is on to newspaper headlines and analysis, where we'll be reviewing major stories making the front pages. Joining us for analysis this morning is Emmanuel Oladile Abiola, an entrepreneur and a public affairs analyst.
Later in the program, we'll take you through a deep dive into our big story, allegations, and the INEC chairman. Must accountability mean stepping aside or staying to answer? To help us unpack that, we'll be joined by Honorable Omola Jalawi, APC stalwart, who will provide perspective on the issues surrounding accountability and public office.
And as always, we'll wrap things up on this show this morning with Trend Watch, tracking conversations gaining momentum across social and civic spaces.
So I say, this is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television.
Stay with us.
Absolutely.
Good morning to you,
A beautiful, cold morning to you. This one is Samson.
Right, quite chilly out there in Ibadan this morning. And of course, that's more or less like a tip of the iceberg from weather report this morning. So if you're in Ibadan, well done to you. You must be preparing a cup of coffee right now because it's quite a little bit chilly. Yeah. But for some of us who are used to being on the road daily, then it's quite becoming more of something we are all used to, actually. But away from coffee and the chilly weather this morning, let's talk about chilly information out there. And that's something about publicity. And someone once spoke about publicity, says there's no bad or good publicity. The only thing is, what message are you passing across? That will determine if it is good for you or bad for you. But, still talking about possibility, billboards of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hoisted in Canada, surfaced last week, and people were asking questions. Who brought these billboards here, and why are they here? And if you also check, it's about relax. Tinubu is fixing Nigeria. Some people would want to question that. There's something about you always asking questions, accountability. Are you truly fixing Nigeria? These are questions people would want to ask, especially people in the opposition. And, there will always be backlash for everything and anything you do, unless you can prove to them that this is the right thing that I'm doing. And as it stands, the question is, why do we have Tinubu's billboards, scattered across foreign countries, especially Canada? But some people will tell you, and that if you have your money, you can invest your money in anything you like, and nobody should ask you questions about it, Anu. So, where do you stand this morning?
Oh, well, I stand inside Dominion Broadcast Group.
Well, interestingly, that's interesting.
Well, I think it's a very fantastic conversation because just recently there's been a lot of movement and amendment just to ensure that people, Nigerians in the diaspora, can also vote, participate in the 2027 elections. It might still not be very clear because there are a lot of legislative processes and other processes that will still come into play for that to happen. So we can say, maybe it's a good way to sell your market, right? It's a good time to campaign to the outside community to say, you know what, with the narrative you're getting from the outside world is quite different. Nigeria is getting better. Forget all of those people that are saying otherwise. But, I think I would also make mention of something that somebody said. Somebody said recently that every good president should have a Seyi Tinubu. And that the president inferred that from a lot of movement this city boy has been doing, across social media, even across regions, in the southeast and some other parts of the country. Tinubu is really pulling his weight around. You can see, Seyi Tinubu now, not the president now. He's trying to do, so there's a lot of coalition. People you would not even expect to talk about politics are now talking about politics. Young people that are usually, just nonchalant about politics and now supporting Tinubu because the son is trying to pull them across, pull them along to say, you know, guys, we can do this thing. And just a few weeks ago, so that was not just the claim. The claims was he said Tinubu will fix Nigeria. Maybe that's one of the things we should spotlight. Maybe he has indices or metrics or some of the things he has, put into consideration to think the present administration is capable of delivering quality or delivering its deliverables to the Nigerian people. But I think I want to first say that Sheyi Tinubu is really doing a lot of things to ensure his father stays on the throne. In that sense, to stay in power. That's what I mean. But to probably, now spotlight or pinpoint what he has said is another conversation. While a lot of persons, especially in the outside community, do not trust this administration, a majority are trying to say that, we don't yet see these things. But it's like we believe in this because we can see some progresses across the spaces that it's seeming like maybe
it's looking like it.
It's looking like it's not as bad as it used to. It's getting better. Maybe this reform is making sense. So there are a lot of speculations about that particular conversation to say, is Tinubu really fixing Nigeria? But I mean, if I was in this administration too, I wouldn't say otherwise. That's exactly what I would say. But I want to also take it. Maybe someday we'll get to know that the first son of the president can be given a title. As Sheyi Tinubu is trying to, because some have also said, don't be surprised, come 5, 10, 20 years from now, Sheyi Tinubu will be vying for a post. And it won't be just an ordinary post. It might be a national post, and you will not be surprised that he's going to win because of the way he's trying to put himself out there. And I think it's very common for politicians to do this. They want to be seen. Like you also mentioned about publicity, they just try to be seen whichever way. Publicity. So there was a time when Dino Melaye was always going to do stuff, and you question his ideology. Why is this guy doing this? It's just for relevance, right? They want to be seen. They want to be in your faces. So that's exactly one of the ways to make that footprint on their stand of time to say, I'm still available. I'm here. So someday when they come, they won't be a strange name. You won't say, who is this one? Where is he coming from? You already know where they're coming from, and you know who the person is. So maybe it's a way for Sheyi Tinubu now to put himself on the spotlight to say, I am also ready, I'm capable, I believe in an administration that is working, and I can also give the same. Because that's exactly what he's going to campaign on. If his father eventually leaves power, he's going to come and say, I was part of this. I was part of this administration. In fact, I did this. Because I can see some of the things he's been doing on the ground, and even the ones that are surface for us to see. But, I just want to say that is Tinubu and this administration doing enough? Maybe not. I don't believe that personally. But I think there are a lot of things they are doing well that we can also applaud. We can just say because this administration because I don't like this administration, or because of some of the things I think, the prejudices I have against this administration or the party, I won't look at the good part of this administration as well. So I think there are a lot of good aspects to see from this administration, especially if you have to consider what has been in the past. The last administration of Muhammad Buhari, you can see there's a bit of, it's like we're getting somewhere. But where we are going is where it's not really clear, because there are still some things that are still not lucid. Recently, the tax reform policy was spoken by Tayo Idili to say there needs to be an adjustment in some of the, and I saw that. I said that's exactly how we should have it. Because we remember one of the days we discussed this, that when we give out reforms, when we push out reforms like this, we should not be absolute in executing just once. Like this is going to start January 1, 2026, and that's it. We can say some part of it needs amendment.
Realignment.
So we can see, obviously, there were a lot of conversations, even at the houses, the chambers, to say what you presented to the National Assembly is not exactly what we have at the House of Reps. There's a lot of discrepancies here and there, and loopholes that we can fix. But it's okay. It's okay to have an imperfect reform, because I'm not sure there's any perfect thing in life, right? It's okay to have it imperfect, but let's perfect it as we go on, right? Along. So I think this administration, for one, tax reform policy and a lot of policies are really helping the country, and it's putting Nigeria where it should be. Maybe we're not there yet, absolutely. But I also want to say it out loud that to restore Nigeria to normalcy, to restore Nigeria to where it should be, it will not take a day. It will not take an hour. It will take a while, right? So I think that's one of the things we should bear in mind, to say whoever is going to fix Nigeria is not going to fix it just because he woke up overnight and then he's trying to do, and then everything works out the next day. It doesn't really work that way. Okay,
I would love to start from where you stopped. People will talk about policies of the government. Many a times people would love to talk about the ones that failed. Nobody will talk about the ones that are really doing fine. And I was speaking to someone yesterday, and he spoke about Nel Fund. I said, look, there are so many people who benefited from the Nel Fund. Might not be the perfect, scheme, might not be the perfect system, but some people are benefiting. And however, when you introduce a policy like that, there is what we call incubation period. Okay, you introduce a policy, you let it work on its own. And if it's not working, what exactly are the problems? You try to fix while it's working. Okay, so it's always like that everywhere around the world. No policy comes in and then becomes perfect overnight. There are changes, there are realignments, there are things you did not foresee that will come into place and will be like, okay, let's make these changes. Just like you said, echoing Taiwo Oyedele's sentiment and said, look, we have some issues and we have spotted them. We are going to fix them as these things, work. And recently he mentioned that about 100 million Nigerians have been captured in the tax net. I mean, that's kudos to this administration. At least we know that 100 million Nigerians are now paying their taxes. The next question is, how do we get the rest into the tax net? That is one. Two, how do we ascertain the fact that these people are paying the normal taxes you should be paying? Are people still dodging, finding some corners and some loopholes to plug into? These are things that will be looked into later. I know for sure that they know that some people are still trying to play some games, but then they are rest assured that, okay, you are paying, right? You are just not paying as much as you should, but then we'll get to that part later. And also, if you talk about, let's now talk about, rather than the message, let's talk about the billboard itself. I can say for a fact that this will not be the first time that a billboard of Nigerian descent will be found anywhere around the world. Okay, it would have happened before, even though some people debunked and said, look, it is not what you think. These things are just generated on the internet. There was a time billboards were linked to Atiku Abubakar, linked to Peter Obi himself, especially during the 2023 electionary period. A lot of things happened, but some people debunked it at the end of it and said, look, it did not happen. But hey, we have Nigerians in these countries. Okay, as much as you want to convince Nigerians at home to vote for you, you need Nigerians abroad to convince their people at home to say, look, I think this person is the right person for you to vote for. Because many a times, you see, Nigerians abroad get so much details than some of us who live in Nigeria, right? You sometimes you just receive phone calls and they're like, oh, so thing is happening in so plan, and you are like, oh, how did you get to hear that? And then when you go on the internet, you find it there. Why? It is because they are usually monitoring what is going on at home. You might not have as much information as I do because of what I do for a living, but you can be rest assured that they do have information than some people who are actually watching TV and listening to radio on a daily basis. And that is because they are monitoring the situation back in their home country. So you need people in the diaspora who might not necessarily have the opportunity to vote, to convince the people at home to say, look, go and vote for Peter Obi, go and vote for Atiku Abubakar, vote for Tinubu in the next election. So these are things that will continue to happen. So that you spotted a billboard, I mean, you are not even sure it is done with taxpayers' money. So how do you condemn someone for putting a billboard out there? So for me, just like another thing you said, echoing your own sentiment too, when you have a son that puts your issue on his head, I mean, that for me, you need someone like that in your corner too, right? He's always there. When you talk Tinubu, the next face you see is Sheyi himself, and not even the father in most cases. So it tells you how much he believes in his father than any other person. I will cite an instance. We've got politicians in Nigeria who don't even trust their own father's system. Okay, they are spread across party lines. David Mark, for example, is in ADC, right? His daughter is in the APC. Malam Nasir El-Rufai, if not recently, his son was still in the APC while he was in the ADC. Atiku Abubakar, his son was in the APC, and he was in another political party. So many of them like that. It is. Let's now talk. We are talking about people who are into active politics. How about some of them whose children are not into active politics, but they are supporting a different political party than that of their father. And nobody is coming out to say a thing about it. And you will now have people whose children are saying, look, we are here with you because we believe in you. The first person that should believe in you are the people back home. If they don't trust you, I mean, there's no way you can sell trust to anybody out there. Nobody will believe what you are saying, because what are you saying? What are your campaign promises going to be based on if you cannot convince people in your own house and then you want to convince people out there. So I want to believe that this is just based on the fact that the father and the son, they are on the same page. I mean, this man does not even have a portfolio in his father's government. And we have seen it across Africa where, you know, the father is the president, appoints the son as chief of army staff, and appoints the son as vice president. I mean, we have seen it happen across Africa, so this is not the first time. And if it happens in Nigeria, people will just go out, maybe do what we call industrial action, okay? Maybe protest out there. I mean, pressure groups, civil rights organizations will come out and say, oh, we don't want this, we don't want that. And hey, before you know it, you forget about it. There are so many cases you have swept under the carpet in Nigeria that nobody is even talking about anymore. And that does not mean those issues do not matter. It is because people forget things easily. An average Nigerian will suffer for maybe 2 months. And let him make money in 1 week. We'll forget about whatever it is has happened in the last 2 months, and then, you know, just move on like nothing happened. So that is the average nature of a Nigerian. So how do we change the narrative? That's a very big question. Tinubu's competence as a president will be put to test in the next general election. Will his son's support count in the next election? Is a very big question. Will the Nigerian people vote for Tinubu in the next general elections based on what he's done as president in the last 3 years? Will be another question that people will begin to ask him. But if you talk about infrastructure, major infrastructures that Nigeria as a country actually need, well, I think one way or the other, you cannot fault this man's efforts when it comes to infrastructural development. If you look at the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, you might say, oh, it's in the southwest linking the south-south. Yes, but then there are other major projects across the country that are even way bigger than that. You can talk about the Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway from Sokoto down to Badagry. That's a very long distance. But someone has made it a responsibility to fix that. I mean, it opens a corridor for trade. Because between Sokoto and Badagry, you have to go to some places that are actually not necessary because you need the corridor to pass through before you get to where you are going. And someone says, oh, there has to be a shortcut between this so point A and point B. And so many other things that he's been able to bring to the table since he became president. However, that does not mean to say that there are no gray areas in this administration. It needs to be fixed.
Actually.
Security, for example, I want to say this for a fact. This is not the first time that Nigeria is having security challenges. It has happened before. It is happening. And if care is not taken, it will happen again. What can we do to stop this once and for all? Will this administration be able to put an end to insecurity in the country? It's a question he has to answer.
And I think that's a very good question. And this is why it's good. Many persons are going to leave the good part that he has done. They are going to
talk about
yes. So this is going to be the priority, because if we lose the lives of people in the country, then who are you governing over? So that's exactly the conversation to say we can mark you right on everything, but if we cannot mark you right on security. Then you've not done anything. And that seems to be a viable proponent. But again, let's take it away from that proposition. I wanted to say one of the things you mentioned about Sheyi Tinubu. If there's I know many parties are really not doing something well, because we have a vast majority of Nigerian youth, about 60% entire, makes like 60% cut out from the whole population of the country, and that means that we have more youth. So now the conversation has been that voter participation has dropped in recent times. Even before now, we've had it's declining as we have elections,
from
one election to 1999 to now. So I think it was about 27%. Generally, last election, that was 2019, right? Was that the last election?
2023.
2023. Okay, yeah, so it's 2023. So that was last election. So from now, a lot of persons are expecting that if any party would do well, involve the youth. Like they say, involve me, involve me. That's exactly a good time to involve youth. If they have that much population, that's the strength. Now, I think that's one thing Sheyi Tinubu is looking at. If parties are not looking in that direction, Sheyi Tinubu is personally taking it some point himself.
Movement, New Dope,
I was just going to talk about
some other things. He's been able to strategize and say, look, how do we bring these people on board? And if you look at the set of people they have involved in all of
they are influencers.
They are influencers.
The massive influencers across the country. So it's now taking it away again from the shores of the country to take it outside. So why must this be a big deal? It's a big deal because there's also a chance for funding. for support, for financial support from the outside community to say we want to donate to this cause. Because you understand in the country, most presidents form are maybe bought by people, just donating and all of that. So that could be a thing to say, okay, so they are pumping money. And it's a way to tell people that if people outside can also pump money, it means that this thing is viable. What we are doing, they can see is evidence. So it's trying to push the narrative to them for them to buy into it. And it's a good one, like I would say. But let me also speak to the fact that if any party will do well these 2027 elections, they must be actively involving youth at every corner, at every sector. I was going to go through voter participation in recent. I was trying to go through some of these analysis, and I discovered that, there's been a massive, registration across board recently, especially with young, because INEC gave a record of about 4.4 million new registrants just in 4 weeks, and that's like a plus for them. Now, 2.92 million also of those are like aged 18 to 34, which means that's a cache of youth right there, and the students are making up about 1.11 million. So you can see a lot of city boy movement, and some of the movement is trying to do. All of these are targeted towards the youth to say, we don't want you to just sit there. We want you to be involved in this process. And people really do well. People really believe in something, and people really do more for something that they believe in. So if you can buy the youth into believing this dream, then I think it's a workable dream. And this is not to say that come 2027, APC is going to win. I'm just saying that if any party really wants to do well, they should target especially the youth.
Right. And also consistency is very important. If you want to carry the youth along, you have to be consistent with it. We have seen some political parties say something today, the next day they are doing something else, especially when it comes to involvement. You can't just say, oh, come and vote. You have to put them in strategic positions, and they will feel involved.
Voter education too is very important.
And it's very, very important. So if you are not consistent with the approach, then it's a very big mistake, because at the end of the day, they will look the other way. Then some of them might not even come out. We have seen youth, especially, we have covered the elections where youth are playing football on an election.
I remember.
And they do not care. And some of them, they have their voters card, but they do not care about the situation of things in the country. They believe that whatever it is you want to do is still going to end up the same way. So they do not believe in the change you are bringing. But you have to convince them and not confuse them that you are bringing that change they deserve and they need as a country, as a people. Until that time, I think it will be a total waste of time. No matter how many billions you spend on campaigns, billions you spend on orientation and some other things like that, sensitization, you are still going to waste those resources until you carry them along. If they are not involved, for example, you see a youth like your own occupying positions of power. I think it is just recently that we began to see actual youth occupying the position of youth leaders in some political parties. Initially, you see 50-year-old man representing the youth, on the table. I mean, how does he want to connect with the people? They do not have the same vibe or the same energy. You have to bring someone that understands them, that will come down to their level and say, look, we are the same thing. Let me convince you that this is what you have to do. But if you put someone who is not even in that age strata, then you are making a very big mistake. But recently, I think in the last 7-8 years, we are beginning to see political parties putting youth actually in some strategic positions, and that for me is how they are able to convince them to join them. And you can see how they are trooping out their numbers to now register for their voters card. And for the population in Nigeria, just like you said, about 60%. Is
over 60%.
Over 60%. That's the population of the youth in the country. That tells you how important they are when you want to create a new voting pattern in the country. If you don't carry them along, you are going to continue the same way you've been doing. But hey, very quickly before we go, it's another big mistake that we have made in the past, that we made the election look so scary that people don't want to come out to come and vote. In fact, there used to be a time that if there's an election, mothers will warn their children, don't go out, I don't want them to kill you for me, so stay indoors. Okay, you don't want to come out because your parent told you not to come out, because they know that at one point or the other there will be crisis or chaos at polling units, and you don't want to come out too. And that fear actually stuck with some people. Even when they grew older and they were staying on their own, they do not care about what will happen at selection units. They just want to stay indoors. They want to play their football on their streets and some other things like that. But we can look into that and make it so simple. Simplify the process. Make it easy for you to now say, look, we want to be a part of it. Until they want to, you are saying, oh, take it back from from the government. How do they take it back when they are not involved? I mean, you don't take what does not belong to you in the first place, or what has been taken away from you that you don't even have access to take back. You give them reasons to come and take it back, and you give them the ladder
and
to climb, and strategies.
Yeah.
Until that period, it's a total waste of time. And it's on that note, we want to close this conversation this morning. Let's help you plan your day and bring you weather reports as regards what the weather looks like across the country. We'll be starting with the ancient metropolitan city of hospitality, Ibadan. Right now in Ibadan, weather is currently at 25 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning it will rise further to 30 degrees Celsius, and it will be mostly cloudy with humidity at 2%. And by afternoon, it rises again to 34 degrees Celsius. There will be a promise of scattered thunderstorms across the city of Ibadan. And of course, humidity will be at 42%. In the evening, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, 0 chance of humidity. And overnight, it drops further to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity climbing to 12% right there in the ancient city of Ibadan today. And away from Ibadan, we take this one from Osun this morning.
And from Osun today, the weather would be very cloudy at 24 degrees Celsius across board. It will remain mostly cloudy all through the morning at 29 degrees Celsius. And later in the afternoon, it will also remain 33 degrees Celsius, an increase of about 4 degrees Celsius. So it will remain partly cloudy. It will retain its partly cloudiness in the evening at 27 degrees Celsius, although a drop of about 6 degrees Celsius. And overnight, it drops further by 2 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy across Osun today.
All right, away from Osun State, we move straight to the gateway state, and that is Abeokuta in Ogun State. As we speak, weather in Abeokuta is mostly cloudy at 30 degrees Celsius. But later in the morning, it will rise slightly by 1 degree Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy, and humidity will be at 7%. In the afternoon, it rises again to 34 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy. Humidity will be at 12%. And by evening, it drops just like in Ibadan, drops to 28 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy with 0 chance of humidity. And overnight, it will be a slight drop to 26 degrees Celsius, remaining partly cloudy with humidity at 13% right there at the Gateway State today.
And from the Gateway State now to Enugu today, Enugu South, the weather will be cloudy at 24 degrees Celsius. Of course, across board variations, not so much, about 4 degrees Celsius differences across board. In the morning, 30 degrees Celsius, expected to be cloudy at 1% humidity right there today. And later in the afternoon, it will increase to 34 degrees Celsius, expected to remain partly cloudy. It will remain mostly cloudy in the evening, dropping 28 degrees Celsius. And it drops much further by 3 degrees Celsius overnight to 25 degrees Celsius, remain partly cloudy in Enugu South today.
All right, let's move straight to Abia State this morning, and to be precise, it will be Umuahia right now. Weather in Umuahia is currently at 24 degrees Celsius. It is currently cloudy, and later in the morning it will rise by 6 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy with humidity at 2%. And by afternoon, it rises further to 36 degrees Celsius, cloudy with humidity climbing as high as 24%. And by evening, there will be a drop to 26 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, humidity at 1%. And overnight, it will drop by 2 degrees Celsius to 24 degrees Celsius, remaining mostly cloudy with humidity at 5% right there in Abia, Umuahia this morning.
And now from Abia to Port Harcourt in Rivers State today, the weather feels like 22 degrees Celsius averagely. In the morning, 28 degrees Celsius, expected to be partly cloudy at 6% humidity. In the afternoon, then it rises by just 2 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius with few showers expected. So in that part of the world today in Rivers State, get your umbrella. If you are going to be there, you can tell somebody who is there to get an umbrella, because it's going to be expecting showers in the afternoon and overnight. Of course, in the evening, it will drop down to 24 degrees Celsius, dropping 6 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy. And overnight at 22 degrees Celsius, there's weather, the showers of blessing in Port Harcourt today.
All right, a quick trip to the north this morning. I will take this one from Kaduna South in Kaduna State. Weather in Kaduna currently feels like 28 degrees Celsius, and by later in the morning it rises to 31 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy with humidity at 1%. And by afternoon, it rises further to 36 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy, humidity also at 1%. But by evening, it will drop to 30 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 4%. And overnight, it drops again to 27 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy with humidity at 1% in Kaduna State this morning.
And from Kaduna to Bauchi today, Bauchi State, yes, the weather would be at 26 degrees Celsius, averagely cloudy. And in the morning, 34 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy. And it rises by 4 degrees Celsius in the afternoon to become 38 degrees Celsius, still remaining mostly cloudy. And to retain it being mostly cloudy in the evening at 31 degrees Celsius, although a sharp drop of about 7 degrees Celsius in the evening. And overnight, it drops further by about 4 degrees Celsius overnight to 27 degrees Celsius to be partly cloudy in Bauchi today.
All right, from Bauchi, move straight to Sokoto, Sokoto South this morning. Weather in Sokoto, as we speak, is currently at 30 degrees Celsius, and it is currently partly cloudy in Sokoto. And later in the morning, rises further to 35 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy with humidity, zero chance of humidity. And in the afternoon, it rises again to 40 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, humidity at 2%. By evening, it drops to 34 degrees Celsius, remaining partly cloudy with humidity at 0%. And overnight, it drops again to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, and there's zero chance of humidity right there in Sokoto. All right, I think that will be all we can take on weather report this morning. So thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast and our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. It is time to go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high...
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. I'm Anoluwapo Idowu. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has held a high-level security meeting with service chiefs and heads of intelligence agencies at the State House in Abuja amid mounting concerns over the country's security situation. The closed-door session, described as an emergency meeting, was attended by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shuaibu, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Aneke, and the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS Oluwatosin Ajayi, the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ambassador Mohammed Mohammed, and the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu. Also present was the National Security Advisor, Nuri Badu, alongside other top security officials at the State House. The meeting comes against the backdrop of recent developments, including a travel advisory issued by the United States Department of State authorizing the voluntary departure of non-emergency government personnel and their families from its embassy in Abuja. Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters has confirmed the killing of a commanding officer and 6 soldiers in the northeast. Speaking through the spokesperson of Operation Hadinkai, Colonel Sadi Uba, in a statement, the military high command said the officer and the soldiers were killed when their vehicle ran into an improvised explosive device, IED, planted by terrorists. It explained that the commanding officer and his troops had courageously proceeded to Sector 3 of the Joint Task Force Operation Hadinkai after it came under an isolated terrorist attack on the Charlie 13 location in Monguno. Despite the setback, the military high command said the troops of Sector 3 overwhelmed the terrorists and maintained control of the location. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has urged judges to always uphold professional ethics due to their impact on how the public perceives the judicial system. The CJN, who spoke in Abuja during the opening ceremony of the National Workshop on Judicial Ethics for Judges of the Superior Court, organized by the National Judicial Institute, said it was important that the principles guide judicial conduct at all times, both within and outside the courtroom. The CJN, however, noted that although the Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers provides a framework for ethical behavior within the judiciary, its application often requires careful interpretation in the context of specific situations. Former Kaduna State Governor Nasiru Ahmad El-Rufai has appeared before the Kaduna State High Court as proceedings resumed in its ongoing trial instituted by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC. El-Rufai is standing trial alongside Ahmad Rasuli over allegations bordering on abuse of office, fraud, intent to commit fraud, and conferring undue advantage, among other charges. In a related development, El-Rufai is also facing a separate 10-count charge before the Federal High Court in Kaduna, bordering on alleged abuse of office, money laundering, and fraud involving $579.6 million and $1.1 million. Consequently, a bail hearing in the case has been scheduled for April 14th. And talking politics, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has dismissed allegations by the African Democratic Congress, ADC, that was denied access to Eagle Square in Abuja. Speaking during the project inspection tour, Wike described the claims as unfounded and an attempt to gain public sympathy, insisting no formal application was submitted by the ADC. Wike explained that access to Eagle Square is subject to due process, which includes submitting the formal request through the agency responsible for managing the facility, as well as payment of the required fees. He further clarified that the Moshood Abiola National Stadium Velodrome is not under the Federal Capital Territory Administration, but is managed by the National Sports Commission, NSC. In business, the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, has cautioned Nigerian banks against granting loans without credible collateral, warning that such practices often result in insider abuse and non-performing loans. Olukoyede gave the warning recently when he received the chief audit executive of First Bank PLC, Muftau Abiola, who led a delegation on a courtesy visit to the Lagos Zonal Directorate 2 of the Commission in Ikoyi. According to a statement on the agency's X handle, the FCC boss spoke through the acting zonal director, Lagos Zonal Directorate 2, Ikoyi Bawa Kautungo, where he expressed concern over banks' lending practices, noting that loans backed only by personal guarantees, including those of top executives, are inadequate and puts depositors' funds at risk. And in sports, Barcelona's teenage winger Lamine Yamal said he was taking inspiration from basketball great LeBron James and Brazilian footballer Neymar to try and inspire the Champions League comeback against Atletico Madrid. The Catalan giant fell 2-0 last week in the quarter-final first leg at home, but are aiming to reach the Final Four for a second consecutive year by fighting back today at the Metropolitano Stadium. Meanwhile, Barcelona coach Hansi Flick heaped praises on Lamine Yamal's performance, adding that he's the best in the world at the moment on one-on-one against situation. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And that ends Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I'm Anuluapo Ito saying thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominion Cast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
I never denied access to ADC and other parties at the Eagle Square. And you want to know who said that? That's Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, especially while there were claims that, yes, when the ADC were about to have their convention at the Eagle Square, it was not given to them. And now we have another report that Wike has come out to say, you know what, I did not deny them access. I only ruled out the rules and some of the games they should, the rules they should play by to get into that particular. But that's one of the conversations we're having on this segment of newspaper headlines and analysis. Thank you for joining us and staying with us this morning. We get a lot of stories from across the print, of course, Daily Sun newspaper, Vanguard newspaper, the Punch newspaper, and many other stories that we can infer from all of these papers. Now, we'll start with the Daily Sun newspaper for some reason, and it's about the outrage that's, erupted over the murder of a colonel and 6 soldiers in fresh terrorist raids. Just recently, we were talking about a general that was killed in the country, and now, it has not even gotten too cold enough to have another story. It seems there's now a resultant effect in another place. So it's still the same story. Mopo, 9 others killed in renewed attacks in Benue. That's exactly the conversation right there. Not a very good one, but one of the high points and the highlight of the stories across the print. Meanwhile, the other story about Wike, also on Daily Sun newspaper, says, I never denied the ADC and others' use of Eagle Square. And that was one of the stories we highlighted and tracked for you in the news. Of course, we'll keep tabs on this and see what becomes of this in the course of time. Now, crude jumps 8% on ceasefire collapse. Marketers more hike. OPEC cuts output by 500,000 barrels per day. That's BPD. I also decide on Avia Guba contest, says Reps, that's Deputy Speaker Kalu. And of course, sometimes you want to wonder why these people make these bold claims, as if they are the deciding factor for a state. Anyway, it's politics now. Ndume cries out over escalating insecurity in Borno. That's Senator Ali Ndume. Is again screaming out cries against insecurity in Borno State. Sharia Council insists on resignation of INEC chairman. Sharia Council insists on resignation of INEC chairman, and many other stories, of course, across the newspapers. The Guardian newspaper has insecurity as its major caption. The bold caption on the Guardian newspaper says, federal government under pressure over fresh attacks on troops, airstrike fallout. That's on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Of course, that's one story that is calling attention this morning. Anxiety over opposition's future as ADC, PDP await Supreme Court ruling. Also on the Guardian newspaper this morning. That's one of the high points and the highlight of the stories on the Guardian today. Nigeria misses $3.3 billion oil windfall as $25 billion Nigeria to Morocco pipeline progresses. Another story of interest right there. 12 years after Chibok, parents demand global action as 87 girls remain missing. That's also a story you might want to check out on the Guardian newspaper this morning, and many other stories. For want of time, I'll also take a dive into the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning to see what Nigerian Tribune has on its front page. And it says, ADC dares INEC holds convention today. That's a big one, talking about the African Democratic Congress, the ADC party. Also something to check out as we track it further on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. Suspected headers kill 47-year-old farmer in Ibadan community. That's also one story to check out. Unfortunately, this happened in our very own Ibadan. Olubadan police meet over incident. Suspected headers kill 47-year-old farmer in Ibadan community. Meanwhile, not very far from Ibadan, Ogun APC adopts Yayi as governorship candidate, perhaps right there on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. To catch more on that story is on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning. And I will take the Nation to take a few stories across the Nation newspaper this morning. Presidency, Yobe government, airstrikes on Jilili market is deliberate. That is also a breakout from yesterday's news. That's a development right there. We'll keep tabs on this and many other stories. Commanding officers, 6 soldiers killed in IED explosion. That's also another story. Federal government new tariff measures to shield the economy from shocks. That and many other stories are the stories we are going to be highlighting today And I won't do this alone, quite gracefully. I'm joined this morning with Emmanuel Oladele joining us this morning for the conversation and the analysis. Good morning to you, Emmanuel. Yeah, as usual, we are always glad to have you around. Yeah, so let's get into the print now. Many stories, particularly about the ADC, and here's Wike, the Federal Capital Territory Minister. There's been a lot of back and forth between them, especially not just the ADC. They have laid claims to the fact that it's like the present administration, the APC administration, is sabotaging their efforts. They wish to have a convention at the Eagle Square, which is, of course, can be a political arena for those kind of events, and then they were denied. Now, Wike came out to say, you know what, I did not deny anybody access, but you know, it's political in a sense. But maybe we can take it from the angle of the law to say that if a party wants to use a place that is a national event center, should it be, are there rules that can guide against maybe the administration or the governor of a state or that region to say we cannot give access, especially if they meet up with every of those requirements to use the venue?
Yeah, thank you so much. Wike was saying something that there's some certain requirements and rules to follow in obtaining the usage of the National Square, Eagle Square. Now, the ADC, on their own part, said that they submitted a letter applying for the usage, right? And they said they have an acknowledgement copy. That's to say that if indeed there was an acknowledgement copy, then the fault is on the FCT administration, right? Not on the ADC anymore. But however, the ADC they failed to provide us with the said acknowledgement copy. You know, politics is so very funny that it's very easy for everyone to make claims and allegations, but difficult to back it up. So that's what we are finding at the moment. And of course, I believe that for ADC to raise this concern, I believe it goes deeper than just they didn't make any application. Maybe they made an application at a point in time and then they knew that they were not going to get it or whatever. And of course, I don't trust Wike. That's so certain. This is my bias at the moment. I don't trust Wike. So Wike is coming out that I think Wike cited that they gave it to PDP to use, they gave it to APC to use. I mean, of course, those two parties, you definitely, even if you don't want to, you give it to them, right? But ADC, that might be a far-fetched issue. So yeah, I don't trust Wike. However, ADC has failed to back up what they are claiming at the moment. So we can't really take side, but like I said, I don't trust Wike.
All right. I don't want to hold you by your word, but of course we can tell that you are saying maybe there's an interplay of politics inside of all this.
Definitely, of course.
But ADC should have done well by providing evidence to say we did this, we followed the due process. Now let's take it further away from that. Now on the Punch newspaper, the big caption, it's about Tinubu. Tinubu moves against terrorists after fresh military casualties. That's a big story, and this is also speaking to commander and 6 soldiers that were killed after the president met with French general and service chief. So there's been conversations about, we had supplies, we had people who came about to help the country, talk about the United States and some other countries. We've had bilateral relations, especially on security, and it seems to be yielding no positives. So what exactly is the case? Some have also said, come 2027, the metrics of this administration as to whether or not they do well or they did well would be based on security. And if they cannot tackle this, then we can say they have not done anything. So I want to know what your stand is, especially as regards having international collaboration yet still in this kind of mess security-wise.
Yeah, thank you. First, I would say that based on any metric that this current administration is placed on, they will fail on it. And take security away, bring economics.
But some will argue, especially about economy. If you have to talk about economy, they've read out some of the things, major highlighting things
policies
they've done.
And
really.
all right.
Yes.
But then, has it translated to real effect?
But they will also argue that it might not be an instant thing. It's a progressive thing.
No,
right?
I promise you that when there is going to be a positive change, right, there will be traces. You will be able to pinpoint at each time that this thing. Okay, for example, now when a country's GDP or whatever is progressing, or inflation rate is cutting down, it is month by month basis. It is not on a year by year basis. So if you're saying, okay, yes, our economy is improving, then inflation rate will be reducing on a month by month basis. You see all these standard of living, cost of living, they will be improving on a month-by-month basis. So if you're saying on the long run, we'll see the positive, the real effect, then we should start seeing it now. So if you're not seeing major, don't even say major, you're not seeing some substantial effect at the moment, I really won't say there will be. It's like you're saying that with US assisting Nigeria, France, and all other bilateral relations with security, on the long run, we'll see the effect. We should start seeing it now, not on the long run.
So who is to blame? We've not seen the effects now.
That's what I'm saying. Definitely, government has a major role to play. It seems like they've not gotten it yet. You know when, when a ship crash, a ship sinks, and then the sailors and all they abscond. Sorry, they leave the ship. I forgot the time now. When they leave the ship, what they first want to know is that where am I? Right? But when they're on their floaties, but they're trying to know whether they're in the north, south, west, wherever they're floating towards, they won't know what they're doing. So that's what is happening with the Nigerian government. I mean, they're on their floaties, but they don't know where the north is, they don't know where the south is. They're just trying to scramble for whatever thing they can just lay hold on. So at the moment, that's what I see it's happening. And I believe, you will notice that there was a time US came in, early this year. US came in, we're involved, we're saying this, we're saying that. But then in the last month, it just seemed as if they just withdrew totally.
But they have some of the troops even in Nigeria, so to speak.
But what substantial effect have they been playing?
Maybe it's beyond what we are expecting. Maybe it's beyond just an instant thing. That's exactly what I'm trying to make. But the case will be for them. A present administration want to make a case to say, this thing has been for 17 years. And you want us to tackle it in just 4 years. It's not possible. Give us another 4 years.
Right. Look at what I'm saying now. I said, US came in full force, but then this abrupt, I will call it an abrupt stop in their support. What has happened? Something really significant has happened for them to have abruptly stopped. Look at the US-Iran war now that is currently going on. US came in, they maintained the tenor and the tenacity in fighting this war. But what has happened in Nigeria is the counter. So I believe that stakeholders in Nigeria, people involved in Nigerian politics and administration, like I've always, this is a conspiracy theory on my own part, but like I've always said, there are people involved in this that are bigger than what we are looking at. So that alone will affect the play. If you were to look at the recent the recent airstrike now, and you were to see how everything is playing out, I mean, you would, it's just an eyesore for Nigeria. I mean, for anyone who is looking.
I mean, there are a lot of ways to look at this, particularly because we've seen a lot of reports in recent times, especially on insecurity or security, as you may like. And it's not really favoring this administration. But we also know that if we have to look at the broader view of things, maybe like a comprehensive view, we'll discover that, well, this is not only peculiar to Nigeria. We have some other countries, the Sahelian regions particularly, they're also in troubles, and you can tell that this is kind of like spreading across Africa. So sometimes there's been that claim that it's beyond Nigeria, because we know that, we know the porous borders we have is also contributing to this in a great way. So we have those borders between Chad, Cameroon. We've also seen instances where they said Nigerians staying in a particular region have to depend on the Cameroonian soldiers to help them when these insurgents come around to take their things away. And just recently, there was also a report that Chibok girls that were taken away, of course about 87 of them are still missing. So there's been an outcry recently to say we are marking years. So it's like after many years, we are still here to have our children back. But we cannot really blame this administration for it because it wasn't Tinubu that was there at the time. But I'm just trying to explain maybe the complexity and the hydra-headed nature of this insecurity. Maybe that's one of the claims the government will make to say. But let's do a bit of, what we call solutions journalism. Like going forward, what do you think in your estimate and in your outlook of things that Nigeria can really do well to tackle insecurity?
Yeah. First off, equipping our military, proper equipping. Okay, during this recent airstrike, it was said that that there was constant sustained intelligence and reconnaissance events that was taking place. That was how they were able to get their intelligence on where to carry out the airstrike. This should be increased. We need more drones monitoring systems in Nigeria at the moment. And secondly, first, military equipment. 2, drone reconnaissance system. 3, we need intelligence. we've not, what you call human intelligence has not really been properly explored in Nigeria as of today. So I feel like that's one of the major issues. And then another way to move forward is, like you said, is the border system, increasing the security in the border areas of the Nigeria. And I want to ask a question though. Why are these terrorists not in Nigeria? I mean, they are, of course, but why are they not prominent in Nigeria and Egypt? I mean, you will say that Algeria and Egypt are in the northern parts, I mean, Sahara part of the Africa, the continent. But why are they not there? You question that. You question things like that because if we call ourselves a powerhouse, why are they not in Ghana? Why are they not there? So to me, it is okay when we say it is complex. It is okay to say, oh yes, it is an issue that goes to the root of Nigerian democracy, because insurgency has almost started immediately. This fourth democracy started too. I get it, but why? Why us? Why is it that we are fighting insecurity like Chad? We are fighting insecurity like Niger. When they say someone is out of your league, Nigeria is out of their league. So things like this should not be affecting us. Things like this are not affecting Nigeria, like I said, are not affecting Egypt, are not affecting Ghana, Guinea-Bissau. Why us?
But they also have their own share of the cake. If you have to talk about insecurity, it might
of
it might not be ISWAP, it might not be Boko Haram.
But even yes, they do. I said it earlier. Yeah, they do have terrorists, but not prominently as we have it, or predominantly as we have it in Nigeria. So something fundamental is wrong.
I would really appreciate if you could nail it.
I've said
a nail
it.
to it.
I mean, I've said it earlier. I will keep saying it again. Stakeholders involved. That's it.
Who are the stakeholders?
I mean, US made a publication recently, and we didn't do anything.
There was a list released recently.
Yeah, but what have we done?
But there have been claims that they are not releasing. They've released it now.
But like I said again, what has been done?
What should be done?
A lot should be done. But the issue that nothing has been done says a whole lot.
Are you sure nothing has been done? Because I remember I think one of the service chiefs was saying to the press one time that a lot of things are going on that they might not tell because of intelligence and because of some.
Okay, this is the language you don't
agree. You don't agree.
No, that's a huge lie.
So you want them to come and tell Nigerian people this is all we are having. We have these persons. We are trying to. There's a court case concerning that. We want them to publish it.
I want them to publish something related to it. Of course, if there's something called intelligence is something you don't share publicly all the time. But then there's what you call the declassification of intelligence. I mean, declassification of intelligence takes time. And I believe that time has lapsed for some intelligence to be declassified, if indeed there is that intelligence. So, like I'm saying, the act of not doing anything in Nigeria says a whole lot. So, I mean, you would think that we know there's a list. You would think that we know people financing. You would think that the military has been involved in this for a very long time, but still no headway. Still, you can't. There's someone I know that says that if you don't want a mango tree in your house again, don't pluck all the fruits, cut the stem, the roots. That's why you don't want that. Like that, you don't get the mango tree again. So we know where the roots are. We know where they are, but we don't want to cut it.
Now, I know insecurity sometimes can be like waters. It can be flowing. Waters, but the point I'm trying to make is, it can have it like a field of water flowing across. And it seems like sometimes people say, I'm in the southwestern part of the country, I don't have to bother about insecurity, especially with ISWAP and Boko Haram. But, it's only a matter of time before whatever goes around comes around, right? Whatever goes around comes around, yeah, in that sense. So now I want to maybe bring it closer now. Something happened just recently in Ibadan. Suspected herders kill 47-year-old farmer in Ibadan community, but this is not even the first time. There are some parts of the Barakwa villages, some of those regions have been troubled by herders in recent times and even in time past, and this has been a thing. But of course, we know we cannot afford to keep losing our people. These are farmers that are supposed to provide food for the nation, right? So if they get killed in their numbers, there is an unintended consequence of that it will discourage farming. And if we discourage farming, then we know that we are in for a bigger soup of the pot, because this is going to be the case where people are not doing farming and food crisis begins again for the country. So we don't want this to happen. But this has been a trajectory. Let's just look at the way that states like your state and maybe the neighboring state, the southwestern state, can actually do, because they've actually come about to say they want to have a trust fund for security in the regions, in the southwest region, and that's a good one. But what more can they do to tackle this and nip it in the bud before it gets into the inner city?
All right, let me paint the scenario. A young child. The only way a young child runs away from fire is that if he dips his hand in the fire and he gets burnt. Once you, let's say this mock cup now, there's a lot of liquid and I touch it and it burns my hand. What I do is that I will never do that again, right? So that's what is happening with insecurity at the moment. What has been done to paint a picture that if you do this thing, this is what will happen to you. There is no fear of prosecution. There is no fear of repercussion to people perpetrating this act. That is why it keeps persisting, right? You keep seeing herdsmen killing farmers. What has been done to the herdsmen that killed farmers in the past? Nothing has been done. So there's no picture in their mind. If you paint a picture to me that if I move this chair away from this place, something very bad will happen to me, I won't touch this chair ever again. So that is what is happening at the moment. We've not, even though some might have been prosecuted, in the courts, but have you brought it out in the news saying that this man was prosecuted and was given 21 years jail time? We've not really painted a picture of punishment, crime and punishment. We've not really painted a picture of punishment. So that's why it seems like they can keep doing this. Then secondly, insecurity. We have Amotekun, we have the police, we have NSCDC, we have so many agency outfits. But then a trust fund is about to be created at the moment. That's just proliferation of resources and activities that are not needed at this time. What you want to do, divest it and re-strategize it towards other outfits that are already existing. Look at what you can use these resources to improve with them. Like I said, if there are networks of intelligence, for example now, what you call, there's this thing we have in the Southwest, vigilante group. They are recognized, right? What about you employ more of them? Put them in this forest and let them take shift. Let them be human intelligence, reconnaissance, looking at what is happening. Let them be observant, so that when they see a move, when these herdsmen, when they are moving, because you see their cows, I personally am of the opinion that there's no herdsman not bearing arms to harm his fellow human being, not to harm a dangerous animal.
Well, that might be an absolute statement, because some of them just have weapons to fight against animals. It might not be for people.
Do you know what you call sleeper cell?
You might want to tell us.
In Nigeria at the moment, I'm very scared that what is happening is in Nigeria, and not so many people have observed or taken note of it, is sleeper cell. Sleeper cell is when you want to carry out an attack. Two things. You make it look very normal, and you use normal people. So sleeper cell is that I want to carry an attack in Oyo State and Osun State in the next 3 months. So what I do is that I start sending out my people to Oyo State and Osun State. I let them go there. They start selling biscuits. They are bike men. Then they start.
And then eventually they infiltrate the environment.
So they are normal people. They become your friends, right? So you wake up, you greet them, hey, back, and whatever you say to them. You wake up, you greet them. Then when the attack comes, you just need to send a signal out. They carry out the attack like a normal thing. So maybe a bike man will just hit a woman. They will tell you it's an accident. Something will happen. And that's me going to farm, killing a man. They'll tell you it's an accident or something. All right. So, sorry, I've taken your time.
It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. We'll probably just have another way to expose these things, to have these conversations in broader terms. But really,
I just believe that enough is not done. And they know the enough to be done.
All right. Thank you very much this morning, Oladele Emmanuel, for joining us on this segment. Of course, we'll now take a focus now on the elections, particularly Joash Amukwito, the INEC chairman. But that will be shortly after this break. Stay with us.
from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live like never before? Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book,
good morning and welcome to The Big Story on Daybreak Live. This is where we interrogate the issues shaping our democracy and hold power to account. Today we turn our attention to a question stirring debate across Nigeria's political landscape. When serious allegations trail a public official, particularly the chairman of INEC, what really defines accountability? It's a big question. So, must accountability demand that one steps aside to protect the integrity of the institution? Or is it more responsible to remain in office and answer the allegations head on? This is not just about personalities. It's about public trust, electoral credibility, and the standards we set for leadership in a fragile democracy like that of Nigeria. And joining us for this conversation to dissect this is Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, APC chieftain and a public affairs analyst on this show this morning. Now, moving ahead, Nigeria as a country, there are so many allegations, proven or not, and of course, they have a way of testing institutions more than individuals. In the case of INEC, the stakes are even higher. As the body entrusted with conducting free and fair elections, its credibility must not only be intact, but be seen to be intact. Across democracies, we have seen different approaches. Some officials step aside to allow for independent investigations, while others insist on staying put, arguing that stepping aside or stepping down suggests guilt or weakness, and of course, it might even weaken the institution's stability. So, where should Nigeria draw the line? Is stepping aside an act of honor or responsibility? Or does it open the door to political manipulation and undue pressure? And perhaps, more importantly, what precedent does either decision set for the future of our public office holders? These are the issues we'll be unpacking on the show this morning. Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, thank you for joining us on the show.
Samson, good morning to you, and thank you for getting me here today. And for the viewer at home who are watching and listening to us, I say good morning to you all.
Now, let's talk about the INEC chairman, the allegations, his reactions, people's perception about the institution itself. Should, at any point, a public office holder have to step aside for public investigation or maybe private investigation? Or should he stay put and then explain or maybe be able to prove himself that these allegations are actually unfounded and untrue?
Yeah, It depends on the way you see it, and it depends on who is calling for his resignation or his accountability. But because we have seen it in the very same world, whereby people might be able to criticize an umpire, they might be able to criticize a particular organization, and some individual as well. But the point there is, who are the one calling for Amputon, INEC chairman's resignation or accountability? If I don't know that, because when you are talking about Nigerians, I'm Nigerians as well. Probably you are the one that's calling for his resignation or his step aside. I don't know, but it depends on who is calling.
Okay, now that you have mentioned that, do you think Nigerians, as of this morning, have full confidence in the chairman of INEC, and that is in the person of Professor Joash Ojo Amukwito?
I wouldn't. I have confidence in him because not because I'm APC, but for the fact that I'm in Nigeria, and I've seen a lot of Nigerians who are wondering what are they calling for his resignation for, and who are those who are calling for his resignation. That is when we are going to know how we are going to be able to.
There are political actors in the country. The ADC, at a point, a faction of the PDP, they have always said, look, Amukwito is one way or the other linked to the presidency. In fact, there was a very old tweet of his, reportedly to have been his, that was flying around social media recently that said he made a comment about President Tinubu while he was contesting to be president in 2023, prior to 2023. And people were saying, if you have this much relationship with the ruling party, with the president himself, then you have no business being the INEC chairman.
Oh, thank you very much. When you are saying this, see, this is manifesting when there is problem with ADC right now. But before he is being nominated, which is being known throughout the whole world, and Nigerians know him, they have already x-rayed his life. They have tabled his past. How he has when he graduated, everything he has done before he reached that place, and they have never talked about his probably his bias towards any political party. But now, when you are talking about AI all the time, we had that his ex handle was being done in South Africa.
Are you saying this is pure manipulation?
It is a manipulation, I believe, because why is it coming out now? Why before it was
only come out when you have given an appointment?
It is not that. This is supposed to have happened during his confirmation, when he was being grilled. He was thoroughly grilled in National Assembly by the senators. It was not giving any breathing space. They asked him thoroughly, but even when the opposition house was full, people have not been decamping then when he was great.
Are you saying this is a campaign of calumny against the president?
I'm telling you sincerely, because when El-Rufai was having the problem, during the nomination, he was questioned, and the senator raised objection to him being nominated, because he said he has something in case he has to answer, because there's a lot of protests against him. Even you are talking about Tijani Bello as well. All his Twitter handle, everything has been saying was stable. And the president overlooked it. He said it against the president. He was backing the opposition, and he was even criticizing the president himself. It was actually, and he gave him that privilege. Now he's working with the president. He's a minister who is working because the man forgave him. We are seeing a lot of people that talks very, very dirty and bad on President Tinubu. He's not working with them. You are talking about Rubala. You are talking about Omokri. You are just to mention but a few. But now the opposition has never criticized and even exposed Ankpito during when he was being grilled before his confirmation. Now, because ADC has a problem, they now knew that he was not competent enough. He's being one-sided. It was even revealed that during the time when Bala Gombe took him to the High Court, and the High Court invited ADC, what's it called, David Mark, to come and explain himself. When the ADC didn't even went to the court, it was Ankpito went to the court and confirmed that he was there when David Mark and Aguchola were being confirmed. He was there during their mini confession, and he swore to it. But now that he is now following the court order that was given to him, now he become a bad person. That's for you to know that opposition are so confused. They don't even know what they want to say. ADC were full of confused people.
Now, if you say ADC is a party of confused people, that would be a very bold statement, because these people have been a member of your political party before. They have been members of your political party before. Talk about Rotimi Amechi, Rauf Aregbesola, Nasir El-Rufai, and so many other people. They were members of your political party. So were they confused when they were members of your political party too? Or they just became confused?
I talked to a friend of mine. I mean, we talk on WhatsApp this morning, but because of some reservation I had, I didn't even know that it was normally safe. But because I have some reservation, and it might be included my thinking ability, which is speculative to human being. A lot of them really just want, because they are not part of this government, they want Tinubu to go, and they have the right, no doubt about it. But before you want to do some things, it is now we know that a lot of our politicians, elite politicians, they are just people. Some of them are ignorant. I'm sorry. Before you dabble into the house, you ask about the rules that is guiding it. You just don't bully people. And when you get to because you've had some certain status in your life, you cannot just bully yourself in and take over a lot of things. And what happened during ADC, the house cleaning, was made to us by former senator of Adamawa, who made us to realize that because a lot of these members were being bullied, they were being belittled. That is what causes it. And the kind of traffic they find themselves, they must be able to, to sort it among themselves. I remember during the height of PDP crisis, Amputon called all of them. Saraki was there, all of them were there. He told them to settle these problems they have amicably, because they are one big family. He said that is the only way that can solve all this the kind of traffic, the kind of jam they find themselves in. They must be able to sort it. And they thanked Amputon and they went and sort it out. Being to Ghanaians, it just worked for temporary, and later they divided again. The problem ADC were having can be solved.
You've been mentioning ADC as a political party, probably because they have been most vocal about the chairman of INEC. But it's not limited to ADC. There are several individuals and pressure groups that have complained about the INEC chairman. Barrister Solomon Dalong, a former minister for youth and sports in the country, was one of the people who raised their voices against...
he was one of the ADC as well. He was ADC member.
He was quite clear. Individually he said it, and of course you could say
he was one of the
ADC member of the ADC. Also, SERAP, as a body, they've come out to socio-economic rights and accountability projects. They've come out to say, look, there has to be something done about Joash Amekuta. He has to go. And a lot of concerns they raised, of course, centers around alleged pro-APC social media activity, which raises questions about his neutrality going to the next elections. They emphasize that no public official should be above scrutiny. Away from there, yes, you mentioned ADC. There are so many other public commentators who have come out to say, look, there is something that should be done, especially Tosin Adeoti and others in the media and public discourse sector. Also, you have a lot of people. And if you want to put it at that, is it, if a public official decides to step aside, is it an admission of guilt or is it a sense of responsibility?
It is not their work to tell Amputa to step aside. I believe the Senate have oversight function to be able to prove something that they think is not right.
But an individual, if he was attacked,
individual can be confused. Individual can be confused. I told you about myself that the kind of notion I have, against my friend who have not even know, what happened to him because of the kind of way I was angry at that particular time can be close my sense of reason. No doubt about it. We always talk about ADC PDP as if ACN has not got APC have not having any kind of problem when they said the governors of APC set their mind upon to become chairman was Tommy Kimi. And because they see some action of Tom Kini and his past deed, they shifted the power him not to become the chairman. Immediately he left to PDP. A lot of them have had, APC have had series of problems. And as a Supreme Court stipulated, it must be cleaned in the house. And a lot of court always advise the board litigant and the what's it called, that they can settle a lot of things out of court. They would have done this.
So, Honorable Mala Jawlawi, should there be a legal or let me say a requirement, constitutional requirement, or maybe a way to compel public office holders to step aside anytime there is a public office holder whose character is being questioned by, say for example, individuals, political parties, and even pressure groups?
It's as if you are telling me that President Trump, because we have to give some example, must step aside because of the problem of Epstein file, in which it was so obvious that he was guilty of. Will you tell me, just for him to say that, and he was even questioned as a sitting president, that he has all the immunity, what's it called? He has all the immunity against being prosecuted. Now, this is the problem that has been happening for over 2 years. And it has not abated. A kind of spurious allegation is not good enough for them to, at this particular time, they are still going to be searching for INEC chairman, as if he was the law. INEC chairman is not the law. The law that is guiding INEC is there. If he really heard, he can be questioned. He has not been held according to the law that is guiding INEC. All he was following is the court decision. The court has asked the INEC umpire, not amputer. You are talking about INEC umpire, not amputer. Amputer is not INEC. A lot of decisions is going to be made by different people who are in INEC, because they have different departments there.
Now, now that the INEC chairman has decided to stay in office, the question I want to ask you before I move on is that how is he going to convince Nigerians and assure them of his neutrality going into 2027 general elections because of his characters, which has been questioned by some people and some political parties? Because in history, Nigeria has a long list of people. Yes, people might not believe it, but we have a list of long list of people who have resigned from their offices because people question their characters. Now, the very first person I want to bring to your notice is Kemi Adeosun, former Minister of Finance. And in the year 2018, allegations over NYC certificate or some other things, she resigned from her position and left. And also, Abdulrashid Maina was chairman pension reform task team. And of course, he resigned from his position over corruptions, allegations, and controversial reinstatement into service. Away from there, we had Babachir Lawal, who was the former secretary to the state government. He was the SGF. In 2017, he was alleged to have been involved in the grass-cutting contract scam, and then he had to leave his office, even though some of them were advised to resign. But then they left office. They did not stay until they were kicked out of office. Ibrahim Magu was acting chairman of EFCC. In 2020, allegations of corruption and abuse of office, he left his office, he resigned. Ayoke was Director General, NIA. In 2017, there was discovery of a large fund in an apartment, and then it was linked to his agency. They could not explain how the money got there and why it got there. Ayoke had to leave. A lot of people like that. I could go on and on. In fact, Salamatu Hussein Sulaiman, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, at the point had to resign from a position because of allegations laid against him by some people, pressure groups, political parties. They had to leave. But then you are insisting that the INEC chairman has to stay in office. So, again, I want to ask you, does staying in office prove any point, or is it an act of cowardice if he decides to step aside?
Oh, thank you very much. Of all these people you have been mentioned, you didn't even mention Patinaji. What happened to Patinaji is what happened to Babachir Lawal. Because like I said to you, a lot of them are ignorant of the law, because the law that guide made them to be in office are those laws that are guiding them. A lot of them, those are supposed to be, they immediately you get to office, you're supposed to have resigned from being a chairman of any corporation you are. Probably you have a company that you are chairman of. You're supposed to have resigned. But Babachir Lawal didn't resign. And the same committee is sat on that is giving that contract. It was the one that awarded. That is for you to know his behalf. Because he has not given others. That same thing happened to Partinaji, the former minister of power during the time of what's it called, Jonathan. Now you are now talking the one that controversial was what EFCC chairman
Ibrahim Agu.
But Ibrahim Agu, because the same man that makes sure that he was put out of office was the same man that has all the property spurious property right now. Are you getting me right now? So a lot of these people you are mentioning, when you are talking about Kemi Adeosun is just being ignorant of the law. What happened to Kemi Adeosun was what happened to former Minister of Communication. You are talking about Barrister Shitu. He was being omitted as Guba candidate during the time of late Ajimabi because he didn't participate in NYC. And when he went to court, the court said that is not the way to justify somebody who is going to be an elected officer, whether you participated in NYC or not. This certificate will have been, but because she was a woman, she doesn't even pursue it. She has to resign because she was from abroad. So a lot of these.
And what is the difference, being from abroad and being in Nigeria?
Being in Nigeria, because the kind of tension a man can be able to withhold, women are going to crumble easily. Now he's back to the system right now, and he wants to be part of the system in Nigeria because he's used to the system. He can see that he just lived far abroad. People don't know his kind of usefulness or importance. Now he has come back to the system. So for you to know that. A lot of these people you talk about, they dip their hand in the till. Akutan didn't dip his hand in the till. He was just following the court order. And mind you, when you are talking about the Akutan is not INEC. Things have been made by law. And I'm telling you sincerely, a lot of governors who have been omitted from being a Guba in different political parties. And when the INEC stopped, even after all the channels have closed, if the court said they should be returned, they returned them. One of them is Brahma Yusuf, what's it called? Ondo State Governor, Ondo State PDP, is now a senator. Senator Brahim. Jimo Brahim. He was omitted as a PDP Guba. Not until about some few days before he was returned. And INEC obeyed the court order. Why do we have to be complaining and criticizing INEC all the time when he obeyed the court order? Okay. It was not the applicant. It was not. Hamilton was not the court order. No.
How can we now draw the line between an actual crusade for accountability, genuine accountability, and then away from political witch hunt? So where do we draw the lines between these two?
It is not, when you are talking about the issue of
Are they truly asking for accountability from Amukuto, or is this political witch hunt?
All was saying is that let the court decide. We have seen a situation that a court of law, like he said, in the case of what's it called, Zafra, the INEC has been crying foul. He has been crying that this APC in Zafra didn't do a primary, and the governor of Zafra was threatening them. Now they did what? They took. They led the exercise that elected all APC chairmen. What did the court say? The court asked INEC to withdraw and terminated all those Zafra APC and gave it to PDP. Nobody cried foul. During the time of Lion, about a day to the time of swearing, the law court pronounced it. It wasn't INEC. Nobody talks about it. And INEC were just following the law. The same thing applicable to Imo State as well, Imo State governor.
Some say they have been given their own interpretation of the law.
It
and
is
not
not
what the law
about
actually
the
says.
interpretation of the law. It's about they making the confusion. They are the one that generating confusion in their camp. If they don't have the problem, why do they have to go to the INEC? It was not INEC, like I said, when I court in Abuja said that they must be able to come and answer. ADC of David Mark have to go to appeal court. He didn't return to that high court, but Amputan, that they are not criticizing, went to that high court and said that David Mark and Naregbeshola were the confirmed secretary and the chairman. He swore and he swore that he was there, he was present, and everyone was present during that mini convention to select and appoint Naregbeshola and David Mark. They didn't know about that. Later, until the appeal court, why did Mark have to go to appeal court in the first instance if he doesn't believe in justice? So for you to know that these people are confused, they must be able to sort out their house. They must sort out their house. It is not the work of INEC. INEC can be an advisory empire that can be able to advise them, but the onus lies on them to sort out their houses.
Okay, lastly, before we go, what reform do you think you expect to see from a governance standpoint that will prevent reoccurrence of this kind of situation?
I mean, like you said, we are building on something all the time. We have not even go to the election. All this we are having is even pre-primary. So I think with time, the legislature are hearing this. I mean, the National Assembly must be able to take a bold step. People like Sarah, all those that are criticizing, must be able to table some law that is, or lobby the parliament to make some law that is going to guide against it. But I think a lot of us doesn't have a dispute resolve mechanism that can be able to help them to solve their house. There is no problem that cannot be solved, but many of the political elite bullying all those people who are just little or who have not known anything in politics must be able to stop. Like I said, that's why I prefer primary.
Are you saying the ADC as a political party is trying to blame their self-inflicted wounds on INEC as a body?
Exactly. I mean, what we are enjoying in APC as well is because of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who can be able to assemble heads or people of intelligent mind to be able to resolve some problem. It is not that APC are not having problem. They are having mighty problem, serious problem as well. But the way it can be resolved is a question, and how a lot of parties can be able to set in this machinery. And I don't think even we need it. If we can be able to do a direct primary as conscience stipulated. When we do this is what they are doing in the advanced world. You are talking about UK, you are talking about a place like United States of America, in order to solve their political problem. If we are not electing people that is desirable to the people, we are still going to be having this kind of problem.
Thank you, Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, for joining us on the show this morning.
You're welcome.
It has been a wonderful and thought-provoking session with you.
Thank you.
The conversation has been clear. The questions of accountability versus continuity remains a delicate balancing act, one that speaks directly to the heart of our democracy. And as Nigerians, the responsibility doesn't end with those in office. It extends to us as citizens to demand transparency, fairness, and integrity in our institutions. Many thanks to our guest this morning, Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, for sharing his insights on this critical issue. And of course, that has been the big story on Daybreak Live today. Keep the conversation going, because in a democracy, every voice counts. I am Sam Sebalogo. Up next is Trend Watch.
for staying with us. We now switch focus to Trend Watch now to see what's trending across the country, Nigeria. And what's trending is about something we've always talked about. Retired Nigerian police march for better pensions in Abuja. On April 13th, which was yesterday, retired Nigerian police officers protested at Nigerian Police Force headquarters in Abuja, demanding an end to the 2004 contributory pension scheme that leaves many with just 30,000 naira to 45,000 naira monthly after long service. They seek a return to the old defined benefit scheme on reforms, citing low career salaries and unpaid arrears, despite recent government payments of 97 billion naira. A bill to create a dedicated police pension board passed by both houses of Nigeria's National Assembly in October 2025, but awaits President's Tinubu's signature as thousands more officers near retirement. That's exactly the conversation. I think it was sometimes last week, there was a conversation you had on the set with Yemi about retirees and how that, their situation is very dire because at that age and time, frailty will have, maybe we can say they will be frail. Frailtiness would have come into the case. So now say these people should now stand and protest and, inside the sun and all of that. It's not good for those kind of people at that age. And because you understand what's the medical implication of that, the health implication of what that could be to them. And so it's been a conversation, especially with the security outfit. We've talked about the serving officers, how that the remuneration, the compensation, the emolument should be enjoying the dividends of your service to humanity. So it should not be a conversation of, help us, we want to table something. It should not be a thing of protest. These things should be structurally defined in the country. We want systems that work, systems that can be put into place to say, okay, for these kind of things, there should not be any protest. This is what we have for people who are retiring. These are the emolument, these are the arrears that you guys will be paid. And it does not have to be a bargain thing. It doesn't have to be whether you are partisan or whether you believe in a government. It should be a system thing. Because I love structures. And this is why I love structures. Structures help to put in things so that even when you don't have the capacity or you don't have plans or you forgot, you will still have it going on because you know that I've built a structure, I've built a system that can predate my administration, that can predate every kind of administration we might have in the country. And I think that's a good way to look at it, Samson.
Well, I think it's just quite unfortunate that we are back here having the same conversation. And oftentimes we have these discussions and then it feels like nothing is really happening. There has been no change, no difference whatsoever. I mean, what do you say to your children that you served Nigeria for 35 years, usually exposed to danger on a daily basis, you put that uniform on, and then after service, you still struggle to feed. I mean, you struggle to send your children to school. And that speaks to the fact that our system is designed to stay the same way. Okay, there is no room for future expansion. Nobody's thinking about the future. And that is why we don't even know how many we are in Nigeria. I mean, you can't tell how many Nigerians we have right now. And if you don't know how many Nigerians we have, there's no way you prepare for what is going to, I mean, if you build a system that is not ready for any form of shock, then you'll be ready for a collapse. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Unfortunately, that's the way the system has been built. Every strata of the Nigerian administrative system was built to remain the same. No change whatsoever. I mean, how do you say that, I mean, okay, for example, these security agencies, the NSCDC, the Nigerian police, the Nigerian army, they are under different ministries. Okay, the NSCDC is Ministry of Interior. There's a different ministry for police, Police Service Commission. I mean, the Nigerian Army, Ministry of Defense. So there is no coordination whatsoever. However, I understand the fact that even in some other countries, they are the military separately, paramilitary separately. Yes, we understand that, but there's no coordination and duplication of responsibilities too. We are talking about state police. The ones we currently have, how well have we taken care of them? Because if you are talking about state police, it means that you have to recruit more. Recently, the IGP submitted a comprehensive approach to decentralization of the police in Nigeria and said about 60% of the current police officers they have will have to be sent to the state level, and then more recruitment will have to be made, running into hundreds of thousands that will be recruited. So if you bring them on board, what will happen to them when they retire? Because we must also always project that this will lead to so place. Before I left home this morning, I know that after my show, these are the things I want to do. So it is quite unfortunate that an average politician that has found his way into the corridor of power does not even know what will happen tomorrow. So you don't live your life as a public office holder thinking it is all about today. You must think about tomorrow, because you are creating a problem for someone who is going to take over from you. I'll cite an instance. We have had series of chairman of PD Service Commission, series of Minister of Interior. What exactly have they done? There was a time the minister was called Minister of Public Holidays. The only time you get to hear me speak, big kudos to the new Minister of Interior, and that is talking about Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. He's been here and there. He's brought in a lot of strategic changes to that ministry, save for the fact that we have not really seen, in terms of emoluments for people, we have not really seen a drastic change. But hey, he's been able to do one or two things. But then, where exactly do we think we are going to end up if we have people who are really inactive in their roles and responsibilities? How do I retire after 35 years? And you are telling me all you want to give me is 30,000 at the end of each month. That's it's absolute nonsense. But, people would really want to say, there are so many other things we want to do with money. In fact, there was a governor in the history of Oyo State that said, even the people that are still alive have not, they have not eaten. We're talking about dead people. That speaks to what they see when they see a retiree. Okay, they don't see human beings. They see people that have been phased out of the system. They no longer care about you. But hey, these are people that built the foundation with which you are working on today. It's much more important that you remember that your family members will also be part of one or two ministries, and then they will retire someday. And then they will come back to the same position you left these people. Someone left office and was owing billions of naira in unpaid pension funds. That tells you how much they do not care. But they are happy to go and spray the road with black paint and say, we have constructed the road that will need repair in the next 2 or 3 months. That's how bad the system is in Nigeria, and that has to be corrected.
Absolutely. We'll just take a few comments to check the pulse of Nigerians. Terence Bobeni says, our police officers are not cared for by our government. Nigeria has a lot of work to do. SCT Cyprian says, now time it go take, it go reach everyone's turn. Something you get older.
Well, another person says, I think there's another comment that says, same men who went, I think that's not quite clear. It's not quite clear. But then people have different reasons to react, and they have different ways to react to issues. And sometimes people would want to come with the pro-government approach, they will come with the pro-protesters approach, and then some people will stay at the middle. They will talk to this side and talk to this side. But hey, it is much more important that we take care of everyone that has contributed to the growth of Nigeria, and that includes security operatives. They deserve better. They deserve more. And that's the convenient place to leave the show this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all socials. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, on X at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng. All right, before we go, I just want to quickly say this to the government, that the retirees will leave unattended to today. There are still the same people that will breed the next set of people you are going to recruit. So the mindset they give their children will depend on how well they will do when you finally give them the job that they are looking for tomorrow. So Samson Balogun is my name. Until tomorrow, that we shall be meeting us again on another interesting edition of Daybreak Live, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Bye for now.
And I would say that do not muzzle the ox which is treading out the grain. Of course, if an ox is doing that job, let it also feed from what it's doing. Of course, my name is Andolo Akpoido. Thank you for joining us. Bye for now.